Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to award and execute a contract for the construction of the Crestmoor Glenview Neighborhood Phase 1 sewer improvements to the lowest qualified bidder in an amount not to exceed $175,000. Also, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for the design of Crestmoor Glenview Neighborhood Phase 1 water system improvements with West Yost Associates in the amount of $79,000.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening. I have Harry Burrows with me tonight also he is the project manager for this project, and he will help me and help you to have the answer for your question. Could you go to the next slide? Reconstruction of the infrastructure in the Crestmoor neighborhood is taking place in 4 different phases. Phase 1 is shown on the map in red, 2 in blue, 3 in pink, and 4 with green color. Phase 1 includes the surface restoration work at the explosion site, temporary safety improvements to be able to open the area for public access, and advanced sewer and water work is the subject of your action tonight. The advanced work for sewer includes upsizing the sewer main between 2 lots on Claremont Drive. The main needs to be upsized to meet the demand. This work would be desirable to complete this work before the reconstruction on those lots will start. It is the expectation that building permits will be issued in the upcoming months. The work also includes removal of a manhole close to the canyon. To minimize weather-related construction complication, it is critical to perform this work before the rainy season will begin. To meet the timing of the home rebuilding schedule and to minimize construction during the rainy season, I am requesting to authorize the city manager to award and execute a contract for the construction of this work to the lowest qualifying bidder, not to exceed $175,000. This is a deviation from our usual process, but would shorten the overall construction process with 2 or 3 weeks. The water line improvement in this first phase will help to increase the water system pressure in the rebuild area. This is important as the new homes being constructed are subject to the new building code that require residents to have fire sprinklers. Our recommendation is to expedite this work to allow for the improvement to occur in advance of the whole infrastructure construction for the area. This work will include a new water connection, how is shown on the map. A water connection from the existing water main on Sneed at Claremont East and upsizing the existing connection at Claremont West and Earl, and also installing 2 pressure regulating stations at both locations. The design of this work requires specialized expertise. West Yost Associates are currently working on our water system master plan and are the best positioned to perform this work. After design, the work will be advertised for bid, and it is our intent to come back for your action to award the bid. The state disaster reimbursement process, the city's insurance, and or the city's trust fund will cover the cost of this contract and the construction. This will conclude my presentation, and I will stand and Harry also for your questions.
Good. Any questions of Clara on these two items.
Through the chair.
Michael?
I was hoping we could get a little clarification on the certainty that the funding mechanisms that are identified here would be appropriate for these repairs, because in the report, I didn't think it was compelling that these things were necessarily changes that were required because of the fire versus improvements that we would have made otherwise. So I don't know, maybe the city manager and the city attorney could probably address that question a little better. It's not so much a technical question as just a little background in terms of how we'll present this to guarantee that the funding mechanisms will be appropriate.
Right. Some of the issues associated with what our insurance through the ABAG Plan Corp will pay for, some of that analysis is actually very complicated, and the need for rebuild of the neighborhood is fairly urgent and time sensitive. So we are, the language that you see in the staff report is language that you're going to continue to see, because we will probably need to unravel some of these issues going forward as in a very deliberate and detailed manner. Specifically on this project and the work that the director has presented to you tonight, and generally stated having to do with how trust funds will be used for the rebuild of the neighborhood. It is our expectation and our intent to take a broad-based view of what needs to be done in this neighborhood in order to assure that the neighborhood is situated to recover and rebuild. In this particular case, both of these projects, in at least staff's opinion, do fit into the definition of what needs to be done in order to rebuild. Now, it is correct that if you're looking at this from the perspective of was the infrastructure specifically damaged in these locations, and are we digging up a damaged pipe and replacing it? The answer to that very precisely is no, not in these two particular projects that we're talking about tonight. However, it is necessary to do both of them in order to facilitate and to support the rebuild of the neighborhood. Specifically, the sewer pipe that is located between the two properties, as the director outlined, is in a location that was very difficult to access when sewer improvements were made during the previous several years in this drainage basin. And it is necessary and desirable that work occur now before new homes are built in this area, while we have the opportunity to access and make sure that that sewer line is adequate to cover to accommodate and carry the necessary sewer flows from this neighborhood. In the second instance, where the work to be performed includes water system facilities along Sneath Lane, the work in that location is intended to accommodate and to provide the necessary water service for homes that are being constructed at both a larger size as well as with the new building code requirements for fire sprinklers. In order to accommodate the water flows that will be necessary to service those properties and to assure an adequate fire flow in that neighborhood, this work needs to be done. So this in particular is an example of the type of work that you'll be hearing from us further needs to be done in order to facilitate and accommodate rebuild of the neighborhood, beyond that which really goes to fixing pieces of infrastructure that were directly damaged by either the explosion or the fire. As I said before, there is a wide variety of different types. There's many different types of work that are going to need to be done. And in some cases, the detailed analysis about whether our insurance will cover pieces of the work will need to potentially trail the work in order to make sure that we stay on schedule. And honestly, the intent and purpose, or among the intents and purposes of the trust fund, was to make sure that the city was not damaged financially in making sure that we're able to do what needs to be done in order to make it possible for people to rebuild their homes and return to the neighborhood.
Okay. Mr. Zaffarano, anything to add?
Sure, only that I think that if the expenses that are set forth in this report are incurred by the city and not otherwise reimbursed or insured through the city's insurance company, they would be eligible to reimbursement from the trust. I think they're clearly the kinds of expenses covered in the very broad language of the trust.
Okay, thank you. And relating to something the city manager said, my understanding of the sprinkler requirement in new construction was that that was intended to offset the situation that's created by having low flows in neighborhoods. So meaning the hydrants couldn't produce enough water, so we put the sprinklers in as a backup or to augment that. Now it sounds like I'm hearing that the sprinklers are actually creating a bigger demand on the existing water flows.
Not new construction.
It is my understanding that the standard apply for any new reconstruction, regardless of the water flow, of the existing pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The code requirement for any new construction.
Aaron.
Correct. So the new code adoption, we've been applying it within San Mateo County for a while now for additions to existing buildings or new buildings, and that's basically anytime you have a new building, a new single-family home, it has to be sprinklered. Now, the addition portion is what you were referring to. In the past, we've had a policy that if you're in a low-flow area and you add a sizable addition onto your home, you also have to sprinkler that in order to make up for the low flow of the nearby hydrants. But in this case, it's applied universally in California now that all new homes have to have sprinklers.
Okay. And my concern was that I understand that a larger home would probably consume more water, but if we're also saying that the addition of sprinklers introduces an additional demand on the system, and we're requiring those in neighborhoods that have low flow, are we making that condition worse by requiring sprinklers?
That's a good question. I don't believe so, but that's something that I would have to ask, a plan check engineer or someone who actually can do those calculations. I think it depends on, the time of day and a number of different variables, but that's something we could find out the answer to and get back to you.
All the time.
I think just to go back to
Sprinklers don't go off and on as much as toilets.
Yeah, that exactly. I mean, it's a peak demand.
Just to go back to your previous question, regardless of whether how the system works, if the code requires us to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and if in order to accommodate being able to provide the flow service, what the pre-existing conditions were becomes a little bit irrelevant when you're rebuilding a neighborhood with so many homes, as is the situation here. And that is the reason that we view this as being very clearly necessitated by and related to, but for the situation not being required.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions, Ken?
Yeah, I'd like to expound on it a little more, because I'm totally in favor of upgrading this area in any area that we can. And I brought up the similar question as Vice Mayor in the study session, is that are we capable of paying for this through the trust or through insurance? My concern is that we're fortunate that there's capacity on Sneath Lane, and so you're making this connection. but eventually you're going to redo all the mains throughout the neighborhood. So just a technical, how are these homes that are going to have, these new homes, you know, that are probably farthest away from this new connection, how are they going to experience better flow for, you know, for their sprinklers, for their homes? And if that's, if they can, why is it necessary to redo all the mains throughout the neighborhood?
After the implementation of this improvement at those two locations, the water pressure will experience a major improvement in the whole neighborhood. Still, after the implementation of this project, even if the water pressure will be much closer to the expected standard, will not be at the level of the expected standard. After the implementation of phase 2 and phase 3, exactly what additional improvement will be necessary as part of the reconstruction of phase 2 and phase 3, then in the whole neighborhood, the standard water pressure will be in place.
And 2 and 3 are expected to occur in the next year.
You are absolutely correct.
Anyone else? Okay, we do have 2 resolutions to adopt here. Would someone like to introduce them?
Through the chair, I would like to introduce the first resolution related to the sewer improvements.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Through the chair, go ahead. I'll also introduce the second resolution related to the water system design project.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.